Wendigo are First Nation spirits that were recorded to possess people and cause them to resort to cannibalism, even when food was present. Tales of these spirits seem to surround the Great Lakes, and it was around the Great Lakes in the United States and Canada that three men, completely unconnected to one another, would perpetuate torture, murder, and cannibalism. We've already covered Wendigo psychosis and the story of Swift Runner on this channel. Check the link in the video description to watch that episode. And before we go any further, please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Now, let's get into the Great Lakes Cannibal Triangle. Jeffrey Dahmer is one of the most infamous serial killers and cannibals of all time. Between 1978 and 1991, he murdered and dismembered 17 boys and young men, escalating to necrophilia and cannibalism. In 1991, he would taste human flesh while living on North 25th Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That February, he picked up his 10th victim, 17-year-old Curtis Trotter, at a bus stop. He preyed on the teenager's desperation and offered to pay Curtis to take nude photos of him. Once in Dahmer's apartment, the teenager was drugged and strangled to death. Then Dahmer took photos of his nude body. He proceeded to dismember the young man. He preserved some parts and ate others. He would go on to eat parts of later victims, and during interrogation said that he had eaten parts of his victims because the acts were making me feel they were a part of me. The shore of Milwaukee Bay on Lake Michigan was about 3 miles from his home. It seems Jeffrey Dahmer was the first in a trio of cannibalistic murderers connected to the Great Lakes. In 2012, Luca Rocco Manata would continue this horrifying practice when he filmed the murder of his neighbor in a residential building on Dakari Boulevard in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. The building stands 8 miles from St. Lawrence River, which feeds into Lake Ontario downstream. On February 1st of that year, Luca moved into the building already unhinged. He had been in a few adult films and had a criminal history for fraud. His mother would later go on to say that as a child he would lock his younger siblings out of their home during the colder months and leave his family pets out in the middle of winter to freeze to death. He was working as a male escort under the name of Jimmy while living in the apartment. But he wasn't making as much money as he thought he should be, so he developed a twisted plan to sell a snuff video to bring in more income, and his sights were set on his new neighbor. June Lynn moved in on May 1st. He was a student at Concordia University. On May 24th, Luca murdered him on film. The next day, he posted an 11-minute video of the crime titled "One Lunatic, One Ice Pick" to bestgore.com. The video showed June Lynn nude and tied to his bed, being murdered by Luca with an ice pick. Luca then committed necrophilia and used a kitchen knife to slice off parts of his victim to eat. Luca disposed of his victim's body in a disturbing way. The left foot was mailed to the Conservative Party of Canada. The left hand was mailed to Canada's Liberal Party. The right foot was mailed to St. George's School in Vancouver. The right hand was mailed to Falls Creek Elementary School in Vancouver. The head was found by a small lake in Montreal's Agrion Park. Surveillance video would capture evidence when Luca dumped the rest of the remains stuffed into a suitcase behind an apartment building in the Snowden area of Montreal. When police searched his apartment, Luca had already fled with some of his belongings. They found bloodstains in the apartment and was able to match the DNA to June Lynn. Luca was arrested in an internet cafe in Berlin, and his trial would begin soon after. He pled not guilty due to insanity. He said that Manny Vasquez, the fiancé to Sharon Stone's character in the film Basic Instinct, had ordered him to murder June Lynn. Independent mental health professionals, as well as ones brought forth to testify for prosecution and defense, all agreed that Luca had borderline personality disorder, but was sane. He was sentenced by jury to life in prison. In 2019, Mark Latunsky, living in Maurice, Michigan, around 79 miles away from Saginaw Bay on Lake Huron, and 330 miles almost parallel to Jeffrey Dahmer's infamous apartment building, would be found guilty of torture, murder, and cannibalism. On Christmas Eve of that year, 25-year-old hairdresser Kevin Bacon from Swartz Creek went to hook up with Mark Latunski in his home on West Tyrell Road. They had met on the hookup app Grindr. Kevin didn't know that he was walking into a trap set by an already demented man. In fact, prior to Kevin's murder, two men had escaped Mark's clutches. Both had been held captive in the man's basement. After escaping, both notified police. However, officials didn't take the reports seriously. Their inaction led to Kevin's grisly murder. Kevin left the apartment that he shared with his friend Michelle Myers around 5 p.m. to meet Mark at his home. When he didn't show up for his family's holiday breakfast, his father called police and reported him missing. Over the next 3 days, family, volunteers, and a few police officials searched for him. But he had been killed the night he had left. When police visited Mark's home, he was quite calm. He let the officers search his home. In the basement, where Mark had already held two men, they found Kevin's remains chained to the wall. Completely calm, Mark made his confession. He said he had sliced Kevin's throat and had fried his testicles and had eaten them. He said he was going to use his victim's blood and bones as fertilizer in his yard and was planning on making jerky out of the muscles. His ex-wife was shocked, but had divorced him because of his worsening mental health. She said that Mark had been diagnosed with at least borderline personality disorder, but refused to take medication. He became more violent and started watching movies that showed heavy torture scenes. The last straw for her was when he threatened to kill their 4 children's pets. In January of 2020, Mark pled not guilty due to insanity. At the time of this recording, the case is still in trial. Were all 3 of these men compelled to these horrific deeds by an external evil force that seems to surround the Great Lakes? Or is there a more rational explanation? Share your thoughts in the comment section. Remember to like and subscribe. If you like this episode, consider sharing it. Thank you.